Hello and welcome to the Soccer Media Podcast. This is our debut. I'm John Schrader. It's a weekly look at the soccer media business and the business of soccer at home and around the world. We do this in association with Soccer America, the gold standard of American soccer journalism for more than 50 years, and produced by the John Schrader Media Group. Coming up in minutes, the conversation with the gold standard of American soccer broadcasters, Andres Cantor. But first, as will be our custom, we check in with executive editor Mike Woitalla on the latest coverage, biggest stories, what to look forward to in Soccer America. Mike, welcome.
Good to see you, John. Should be fun.
I'm looking forward to this venture. Well, we're less than a year away from the World Cup, of course, and as we will increasingly look at the World Cup, both in Soccer America and in this podcast, what is the latest on the national team front?
Well, I think October is going to be the most important, exciting month for the U.S. men's national team heading to the World Cup until the next month. But I do think that this is the month where the experimentation has supposedly officially ended, and we're supposed to see a team that'll start getting us excited about the U.S. possibilities at the World Cup. And there's good news like Christian Pulisic coming in really on fire, being probably one of the best, one of the top, if not the top Serie A player. He did miss a penalty kick right before he came here, but before that he had 6 goals in 7 games. So that's one of the things that's a positive for the U.S. ahead of these in October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pulisic is the star in Serie A. What's his leadership on this national team?
Yeah, that's a question that always comes up about who the leaders are on the team. And Christian Pulisic's kind of guy where people would say, or he does say, a lead by example thing. Tim Ream, I think, is the person that I think plays the most valuable role as a leader, an elder statesman, and he's literally on the elder side. He celebrated his 38th birthday on Sunday, and they've obviously we've asked other players about him. Christian Maldon talked about just how important he is to the people feeling welcome when they come into camp and that being the kind of environment you want with a national team.
38 years old now. It's awfully young in my book and getting younger all the time. But what's been the key to Ream's long and successful career?
Well, I did ask him that, but I saw him play when he was a rookie. He was teammates of Thierry Henry and in the Red Bulls coming out of St. Louis, and central defender. And you notice something about him immediately, that he really depended and thrived on technique and tactical awareness. He never was a player who depended on his athleticism and brawn. He's a smart player, reads the game well. But I did ask him what he would tell young players who would want to emulate him in a long career. And he said that, you got to find some things that work for you, like small things in the game that you can be really good at. And that would be different for different players. And you have to figure out what are the things that are going to really have your game stand out apart. And, adapting to different coaches and different coaching styles. He's had scores of coaches and he's adapted. He's played at different leagues in England and, different levels in England. And, the usual, if you get knocked down, you get back up no matter how many times you get knocked down. And he also said that you want to find a good girl to settle down with her, and she'll have your back. So he basically is recommending the early wedding in your career if you're an aspiring pro soccer player.
That's the kind of advice we need. And we also know, too, that defenders and goalies, it seems, are longer in the back end of the careers and maybe not as dynamic in the early parts of their careers. So, yeah. Andres Cantor coming up, as we promised, a conversation we had with Andres Cantor. And since the early 90s, since that World Cup in 94, played a major role, Mike, in popularizing this sport in America in English or in Spanish. And I think we probably aren't giving away any secrets. We like to listen to games in Spanish, but his goal, and that's as good as I'm going to go with that right now, certainly is something that got people's attention and made them interested in soccer, whether they knew a darn thing about it.
Absolutely. It's interesting that we're talking about Andres Cantor. and being a celebrity, because that's exactly what he was. He in the early '90s became a mainstream household name. You didn't have to speak Spanish. You didn't even have to be a soccer fan. And Andres Cantor, there's no doubt about it, helped popularize soccer in the United States. If you weren't interested in the game and you would hear him somehow, you would know that something important was going on somewhere, something exciting. The passion he brought to the game in a very fun way. And I think it also needs to be said that he's an expert at what he does. He's such a perfect play-by-play person in the sense that he tells you who has a ball. It's not like these guys where the color guys babbling and they're telling stories about the player's background while you're missing the action. Like being in a movie theater with people talking behind you and distracting you from the game. You watch a game by Andres Cantor, you know who's got the ball, you know what to look for, and he brings drama to that with the simple fact that he's doing play-by-play. The drama's coming from his expertise, and that's part of the delivering information, which is why he's so great.
And one of the things that really struck me, Mike, about Andres Cantor is how humble he is. Of course, he has all this attention, and he owns his own media company, and he's going to his 7th World Cup. But really, there's sort of a down-to-earthness about him that I found refreshing.
Absolutely.
All right. Andres is coming up. Mike, we'll check in with you next week.
Okay.
Did you know that Soccer America membership includes a daily television schedule delivered to your inbox every morning? I've been depending on this for years, decades, really, to follow games from all corners of the world. For a 30-day free trial of Soccer America, it includes all e-letters. Go to socceramerica.com and click on any story. With all due respect to a lot of friends I have in the broadcasting business in America and a lot of friends I have in the soccer broadcasting business in America, this gentleman may be the most famous voice, certainly among the most famous voices in football and soccer in America, Andres Cantor, and he's been kind enough to spend some time with us. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
John, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. Looking forward to a nice footy conversation.
So even the people in America who don't necessarily recognize the name know the voice of the goal. And I don't know, I tried to time the length of one of your goal calls the other day, and I lost track of it. But clearly they know that. Do you have to fend off sometimes people, on request, on demand, asking for that?
I do. Obviously, first and foremost, I'm always full of gratitude when people do recognize me and ask me to yell the goal call. But I explain to them that actually I don't do that for a living. That it happens to be the most important part of a soccer match, and that I don't just go out on the street and start yelling goal. And if I wouldn't have a voice on the weekends to call the games. So yes, I do fend them off. I hope I do not offend them when I say no. Just wait for the weekend, tune in to my next Telemundo broadcast. But yes, I'm very grateful for all the people that recognize me and ask me to yell out in the middle of the street, in the middle of a restaurant, which is kind of odd to me.
Well, it's not like, let's get ready to rumble, which was trademarked. It's
Right.
pretty hard, I suppose, to trademark a goal call. And you're not asking you're not asking for any money to make the call. You just say, look, I got to save the goods here. Got to save the goods.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because after, what happened with my career in 1994 with the big explosion and exposure of my goal call, we did inquire about trademarking the goal call, and the trademark office said you can't patent a word because we don't know how long it is. How many O's and A's are you going to put? So it's like you can't patent the sound. So anyways, yeah, of course, it's super nice to be recognized and to be asked, but I gotta save the pipes, really.
Yeah. And this developed just as part of a natural evolution of calling soccer, right?
I always say the same thing, John. I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time during the 1994 World Cup that just exploded here in the US. I mean, for the younger generations, they will see what the World Cup means come next summer, because if it exploded way back in 1994 when there was no social media, no amplification through other networks, etc., this next World Cup will be the greatest sporting event in the history of our country. So way back then, I always said when I started getting attention that I didn't invent anything. That is the way I grew up listening to soccer in Argentina when I listened to games on the radio. And to this day, and back then, that is the way the announcers in Argentina yelled out the goal. I just happened to popularize it here in the US, and I was very lucky enough that it caught everyone's attention.
So 2026 World Cup, your Argentina comes here as the defending champions. What little special part of that adventure is that for you?
It's going to be super nice. Obviously, I waited way too many years to cry on air and say the words that I thought I was never going to say, which is Argentina champions of the world. I had to wait 36 years for that to happen, from Mexico 1986 to Qatar 2022. I kid with my friends at FIFA that they robbed us of 6 months of happiness, because usually the world champion cycle is 4 years detached from one World Cup to another. But by the fact that Qatar was in December, we have all Argentinians have 6 months less of happiness, of bragging rights and everything. So it's going to be very nice to go out there and say for how many games it lasts, the defending champions are still in the tournament. Hopefully it will be 8 games, and I'll get to see them again in New Jersey come the final.
Yeah. I mean, it seems so almost trite for me to say this, but what does it mean to a person who grew up in Argentina, moved here when he was a teenager with his family? What does it mean to be the champions in something that, Americans just, we think we do. We think we kind of know what it means. But what does it mean?
It means more. I mean, it's very hard to understand, because obviously soccer is my passion, is my life. It's really, I mean, I breathe soccer 24 hours a day, and have been doing so ever since I was a young teen in Argentina. Argentinians have a very definite relationship with our national team or our club teams. It's very hard to understand, because here we're more club driven. If you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you enjoyed Michael Jordan's, golden era, or whatever sport you happen to follow. But then, come the international tournaments, the Olympics and so forth, I don't know if there's that connection as profound as Argentinians have with their national team. So for me, it's like, I've waited 36 years. I've been lucky enough, John, to live and to be at the stadium all 3 times that Argentina won the World Cup: 78, 86, and now 2022. So it's like a feeling. I get scolded by my family when I say it's it was one of the happiest moments of my life. Of course, after the birth of my kids and my marriage, but it's a connection. The Argentinians have a very, very deep sentimental connection, because it's our source of pride. We identify with our soccer teams or soccer national team, and to be the world champion is just the best feeling in the world, literally.
Did you expect the reaction that you had when Argentina won that championship and when you were calling it? Did you expect that
No,
um, manifestation of those feelings?
no, not at all. First and foremost, obviously the video of me calling the penalty, the winning penalty kick, went super viral, and it was, and I did not do it with that purpose. Honestly, I recorded it on my phone with the intention of just capturing the moment if it were to happen, and then I uploaded it on social media, and within 20 minutes I had 300,000 views, and within 24 hours I had to start doing interviews uh, in all corners of the world because of the old man that was crying when Argentina won the World Cup. I mean, they called from Egypt to Australia to it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. It was kind of odd to me because even though obviously I understand how things work nowadays, Argentina had just won the World Cup, and yet they were talking to the announcer. I got very emotional and cried. And then I had episodes of people recognize me in the most bizarre circumstances and places around the world just because of that viral video. Up to today, I think has I don't know, like 10 million views or something absolutely unheard of. So no, I did not expect it, and it was wonderful to see what I can now explain what a viral moment means from the inside.
Andres Cantor is with us. I'm John Schrader. As always, thanks for the time. Why broadcasting? And when did you think, I think I can sit behind a microphone and tell people about this sport that I love so much? Why and when?
The answer to that is never. The answer to the why is because I had an audition when I was 22. And the other part of why is because I was 22 and I said, why not? I went to school and I wanted to be, I finished my journalism curriculum at USC in Southern California. When I was in school, I started writing for a publishing company in Argentina, a very well-known publishing company. I wanted to be a writer about sports, about soccer, mainly about soccer, but I covered anything from boxing matches in Vegas to the Oscars in Hollywood to full-length interviews with economists. I covered many topics when I was writing for this company while I was in school at USC. And suddenly I get a call. They're looking, for somebody to hire at SIN, which then became Univision. I get to the studio. I do color commentary on the two games that we taped. We take a break for lunch. The guy that ended up hiring me says, I can tell that you know a lot about soccer, but, and the minute he said, but, I was ready to shake his hand and say, thank you for the opportunity, but goodbye. He goes, do you think you can do, we're looking for a play-by-play man. Do you think you can do play-by-play in the next game that we're going to take? I said, yeah, of course. Why not? I did it. I guess he liked it and got a job immediately after that. And here we are doing the podcast talking about what happened almost 40 years ago.
Yeah. And at that moment, did you get infected with this right away? It was like, I can't wait to do it again.
Definitely. I knew that was my opportunity. I mean, to be involved, I always say that I have the second best job other than being a player, which is, allows me to be around the game for so many years in the biggest sporting events, in the biggest tournaments, having to befriend and know many players and coaches and athletes all together. So yes, I knew. I didn't know if I could do it. I mean, that was the very first ever time I stepped into a television studio in my life way back in 1987, and I had no idea whether they were just going to hire me, even though they gave me a full-time job. I did not know if I was going to last, or if they were going to hire somebody else. I ended up calling the 1990, 94, and 98 World Cups all by myself. I was the only play-by-play announcer of those 3 World Cups for Univision, which in today's age is absolutely unheard of. I know there were less games, but I called every single one of them, and it's just totally crazy to think about it.
Yeah. We know how many Spanish speaking Americans there are, how many Spanish speaking people there are in America. Is the business of Spanish language broadcasting accepted, respected, thought about in the right levels, the right respect from people in this country, including those in the broadcasting business and maybe the viewers as well? That question make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because there's no bigger compliment when people come up to me and say, "You are the reason I love soccer." Every time there's a World Cup, even though I don't speak a lot of Spanish or little Spanish or no Spanish at all, I watch you because you make the game more alive. I'm not going to talk about styles because each one has its, each broadcaster has its own style. Each school of broadcasting has its own style, but I think there is a respect, and I think there is a lot of turnover of English speaking viewers that tune into Spanish language broadcast, be it my own or somebody else's, because we have a different feel for the game, or at least we try to project a different project. We have a different passion altogether. I'm not saying that it's more or less than anybody else has. Don't get me wrong, but I guess we express it differently and bring something else to the broadcast. So I think there is an appreciation.
Yeah, and I have to say, and this is not about me, and I'm sorry if it sounds like it, but when I broadcast the San Jose Earthquakes games for many years, I was probably the only guy, certainly one of the very few Anglo guys who called the games, who used the sort of Latin style goal call and would carry it out in a Landon Donovan De Rosario goal. And honestly, and again, I don't care, but there were probably as many critics of that because apparently I, as an Anglo guy, wasn't supposed to call broadcasts like that, and they thought it was sort of ungenuine, I guess. So I guess maybe my question is why, and I'm asking you for an opinion. Do you think like Anglo broadcasters should present more of this sort of Latin style passion? My friend, Carlos Cesar Rivera would say, "Passionista, could we see? Why don't we see more of that?"
I cannot answer that. I mean, I think everyone has to be true to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share something that happened recently. I was hired by TNT to call some games of the Club World Cup that was played here this summer. And I had done a game with my son Nico for CBS Sports in March of the Nations League, Mexico, Canada. And going into those English language broadcasts, which I do, from time to time, I did some Premier League for NBC Sports. I did the Olympics. I did a couple of games in Tokyo for NBC Sports. I did the Sydney Olympics altogether way back in 2000. And it had been a while. So I didn't know, understanding what you just said, which is an excellent observation. There is a style, there's a music that the American audience is used to listening when they listen to a game broadcasted in English. And then I said to myself, but if these people are hiring me, they probably want me to be myself. So I tried to find the right tone and to be as genuine as I could during my English language broadcast in TNT. And I think everyone enjoyed it. I mean, I was very lucky that I got to call two games from my beloved Boca Juniors team, and I got to call Messi two times, and he happened to score a goal, a free kick goal, which was set up perfectly for for my call. And I said, I'm gonna give it all out. It's me. I can't just say, "Oh, Messi goal, he scored 1-0." No, that wouldn't be me, and probably that wouldn't have been the reason. Uh, the Warner people will hire me. So I can't go into that because I think whatever it's inside each broadcaster has to be true to themselves, true to the audience, and they have to be genuine. They can't make things up. I don't do the goal call as a gimmick. It's part of the way I feel. It's the way I was brought up, listening to the game, how we call it, throughout Latin America. So, you know, each to his own.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. I think, and the audience, if the audience, they don't intellectualize this, Andres, but they know lack of genuineness. They know
Sure.
authenticity. They know that like that. They don't really know why, but they know that, and they don't like it. They
I
like,
agree.
they
I
like
agree.
who you are. So you, I mentioned, as a teenager, your family moves to Southern California. How much did that sort of rock your world, and what was that sort of move like?
Traumatic. It was super traumatic because obviously I was pulled from, I was a teenager in Argentina, in the middle of my primary school. I played soccer every weekend. I went to see my team every other weekend, actually every weekend when I could, home and away. And suddenly I'm here without speaking a word of English. So it wasn't easy, to say the least.
So you don't speak a word of English when you get here, but in just a few years you're at USC, right? So you
It doesn't,
must
it
have picked it
doesn't
up
mean
pretty quickly.
it doesn't mean that I spoke English at USC. No, I did pick it up. It took me probably a couple of years. I remember the very first course, the very first class. I remember it to this day, Linguistics 101. And the textbook was like Chinese to me, but I got by. I got
Yeah.
by.
But and so I guess it didn't take the teenager long to sort of grasp the American culture and
It did.
what it is. It did take a
It,
while.
it did. It did take
Yeah.
a while. It did take a while. It wasn't. I was used to. I mean, as I told you, I breathe and live soccer 24 hours a day, and there was little or no soccer here. I used to come back from school and play. I would play in the school. I mean, back in Argentina, we used to play in the breaks. Everything revolved. My life revolved around soccer, and here I didn't have that, and it was really really tough. And I mean, I went to USC right after Marcus Allen, and it was super big in football, obviously, and I never got to go to a game. I didn't. It was like a competition for me. I didn't want to go to an American football game. That was not my thing. So we didn't have a soccer team back then. It wasn't USC wasn't part of NCAA, so we had a club team, and I played there. And slowly but surely I started adapting and becoming part of this culture. So much so that now I'm 50-50. I mean, I consider myself as much as an American as I am an Argentinian by birth and by blood and by heart, by sentiment. But if you ask me, I mean, I'm a very acculturized Argentinian.
And there are a lot of people in America, tens of millions of people in America, just like you, who are and not just Latin Americans, but just like you, who are here and there and who are parts of everything. And I think honestly, it's one of the things that makes this country so rich.
Yeah.
It really does.
And as a matter of fact, if I may, talking about Argentina, I'm drinking my mate. I
Okay.
usually do at this time in the afternoon, the Argentinian drink. You
Yeah.
pour water. Yeah, you've probably seen it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was lucky enough to go to Buenos Aires for a few days about a year and a half ago. Spent a little time in Santiago, then went to Buenos Aires, and I found it to be a lovely place. It
It
was an
is.
awesome place.
It is.
If I might ask you a couple of personal questions, your descendants were part of the Jewish diaspora from Europe into Argentina. How has that part of your history impacted your life?
Very much so. My grandparents on my father's side were from Poland. My mother was born in Romania and moved to Argentina when she was, or their parents fled to Argentina when she was 13. Both my maternal grandparents were from Romania. I went and visited both of their birthplaces in Bucharest, Romania, and Bialystok in Poland. Growing up Jewish in Argentina in my time wasn't easy. There was a lot of anti-Semitism. Actually, I talked about this. I was very lucky very recently to be inducted into the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, and I did an interview in Israel talking about this same subject. So it did obviously impact the way I grew up, and my wife kids me and says I have no Argentina in me. Oh, I'm a Eastern European uh, Argentinian. I'm not Argentinian. She says I'm Eastern European, but obviously that is my family's heritage and background, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, and how uh, in the big picture, how can a man who calls soccer matches, who broadcast soccer to the world, football to the world, sort of help change the impression or view of real life? I know that's kind of an odd question, but do you feel a responsibility like that at all?
There's nothing I can do to change real life. If I can entertain people and make them forget about whatever troubles them during 90 minutes and enjoy the way I call the games, it's good enough for me. Um, I cannot change, unfortunately, the rest of the world.
Yeah. Since you walked into that TV studio when you were 22 years old and this has been your professional life, could you have imagined doing anything else? And if you could, other than being a writer, what would it have been?
Honestly, no idea. I never. I knew from a very young age, even when I was living in Argentina, I wasn't your typical teen because my dad would take me to the stadium, and I would get back and write the report of the game that I had just watched on his typewriter because I loved writing and I loved the game and I wanted to have my own stories around it. I always knew I was going to be a journalist. I mean, since probably 12, 13, when this happened. Um, I never, I was very lucky that I published my first article in that publishing company I worked for when I was 16 and a half.
Great.
So very, very young. So from there on, I knew that I was going to be in this profession one way or the other. Never had a second profession that I liked. You ask many people if you wouldn't have been this, what would you have been? My answer is I have no idea.
I ask people this, and I sort of approach it this way, and I try to help the students I work with approach it this way, and that there's so much journalism in what we do as play-by-play announcers. We're doing it in real time, but it's the who, the what, the when, the why, it's the how, it's all of these things, but we're doing it in real time. Do you ever think about how you approach the job in that respect?
Yes, definitely. I am having lots of issues, John. You just mentioned the why, the how, the when. I mean, I am having so many issues with the way journalism in general is being approached right now, with everyone thinking that their own network and their own journalist, and there, in my view, there is a lot of irresponsible people nowadays trying to get likes, follows, whatnot. That journalism is, to me, at this juncture, is suffering. So how do I approach it? I basically approach my job, even though I might feel that I know a lot about the game. I need to make sure that the viewer or listener understands what I'm trying to convey, either from a tactical point of view, from a story about, human interest story of the players, um, etc. So basically, the how, when, how, why, etc. It's into my broadcast, because I can't assume everyone knows what I'm talking about when I talk about player Y or player Z, or if I say that, I need to give context to a tactical analysis. I can't just go out and pretend that out of the 10 people that are watching at the moment, all 10 of them will understand how I am analyzing the game. I don't want to alienate those who do, but obviously I need to make sure that I give context to the ones that don't. So, Manchester United plays with three in the back because Ruben Amorim. You and I know that Ruben Amorim, since he started coaching in Portugal, every team he coached, he plays, a back three. But not everyone does. So I have to give context. I need to explain how, why, when it started, and I'll just weave it in somehow.
Yeah.
If obviously the call merits that explanation, but you know what I'm trying to get at.
So 36 years ago, you and Alejandro, and I don't know who else, founded Fútbol de Primera, and you still do that almost every day. And what has that been, meant to you and your career?
It's pretty much part of my life. It's it's amazing that this is probably the longest soccer minority-owned company standing. We are very proud to be FIFA's longest media licensee here in the US, regardless of language and medium. The next World Cup will be our 7th consecutive broadcast of the FIFA World Cup. We are very proud of our association with US Soccer as well. And we are evolving the company into the way people are consuming media nowadays. We just moved to our new studios, our new offices. We are broadcasting every day our daily show with video on our YouTube channel and all the streaming platforms. So we're getting ready not only for the World Cup, which is 281 days away as of this recording, but we're getting ready for the company's next phase after the World Cup, and we're going to evolve into a media hub content company that will not only focus on soccer.
So the last question is, then, you are a TikTok star.
TikTok? No, not
Not yet.
I abandoned TikTok a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I use it. I mean, if you ask me what is your social media that I use the most, probably Twitter to vent out information and opinions, and for the rest, Instagram.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, Andres, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing part of your life with me. And as always, I will say this: I I speak enough Spanish to have a conversation, and I enjoy listening to you, and enjoy the passion that you bring to your work. And
Thank you.
thanks for the time very much.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure, and look forward to crossing paths in the World Cup for sure.
I hope so. I hope so. The great Andres Cantor with us. I'm John Schrader. We thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your interest in what we have going here. You know, Soccer America's letters include Soccer on TV. I open it every morning to plan out my soccer viewing from the massive menu of games available on television, streaming, wherever, whenever it is, from around the world, and of course, in our backyard as well. To become a Soccer America Pro member, it's pretty simple. You just go to socceramerica.com/join. We thank Andres Cantor for being here. And among the folks you'll hear in the coming weeks, Taylor Twellman, Marcelo Balboa, and maybe a surprise or two, almost certainly a surprise or two along the way. For Mike Woitalla, I'm John Schrader. We'll see you next time.